Welcome back to the Anachroschism. Oh, good.
I knew it was going to happen, too.
I'm just glad you stopped pretending you were giving oral to somebody under the table in time.
He just shrugs. So yeah, welcome back. Because I'm not going to restart, so the hell with it. When we left off, the group was deciding to split up and head in different directions in Harnstead as they wait for news on whether or not they'll be able to have teleportation access to Lycidian. So, a couple of characters, Isaac and Tessian, were heading to the library, called Well Read, for nefarious purposes. Just kidding, I don't know what they're going there for, it'll be fun. And the rest of the group was going to head over to Gran Reserva, which was apparently one of the main stores in town that was owned by the gentleman who was murdered by someone last night. And they're going to see if they can find out any more information. So we start with Grail, Lenishard, and Karash. Are you guys taking the wagon with you?
Yes. Yeah, I think we talked about that, like putting it in a stable or something for when we go to Lycidian, I think.
Okay. So, you guys have the wagon. I assume Lena's steering.
I shall drive.
The donkey mules.
Donkey mules, yep.
You head to the eastern side of town. You guys actually kind of saw the library on your way in the first time yesterday. So you have a sense of, like, even where you're heading, you can see that. You guys are to the south side, though. I'm sorry, I'm backwards. You can see that building, though, from pretty much anywhere in the city. It's a big building, the place where Tessie and Isaac are heading. So if you know, like, if you needed to meet up with them for some reason, you have a pretty general idea where they're going. As you guys head to the south, where Gran Reserva is, the town is still lively. Compared to yesterday, there is definitely a decrease in activity on the streets. Not to an alarming rate or anything, but you can tell just from getting a general feel of the town that, like, news has spread that something happened last night, and at least some people have chosen to be like, well, maybe we won't go out and about today. And Tessie and Isaac, you're also seeing that as you make your way to the library. There's still a jovial sense about the town. People are engaged in conversation with each other as you kind of pass them by, walking in the streets. A lot of them will like tip their hats in your direction. Like yesterday, it seems to be a much more welcoming, certainly in contrast to Falstock. But just in general, it seems like even with what happened last night, people are pretty happy with what's going on. It takes about 6 or 7 minutes on the wagon, and you pull up outside of a relatively small building, only one story. Big enough that you can tell it's like a store, not a house, but still, compared to a couple of other places like the Moment of Zen or the library, which you can see towering over the city, essentially, it's a smaller, more comfy arrangement, and there's a sign outside that says Gran Reserva.
Cool. Guess I'll put the, like, kind of park the wagon on the side so it's kind of out of the way, and then walk in and check out the store.
Okay.
I'm going to talk to whomever we find in there and ask them if they know what happened to their former owner.
Well, as you guys walk in, you see a few things. You see the inside is like the, I was going to say the wine cellar from hell, but that has a negative sound to it. It's just a massive wine cellar. And specifically, there is a main countertop area that's sort of like across the room from you as you enter. But behind it is just this series of crisscross cubby holes with bottles and bottles and bottles and bottles and bottles of wine just filling the thing. There's a handful of spots where things have been removed. You presume that they've been sold or something, but beyond that, there are probably at least hundreds, if not thousands, of different bottles of wine in stock in this particular establishment.
I'm a little taken aback by how much is here. Like, I know she said that they sell a lot of wine and stuff, but this is a lot, so I'm a little like, ugh.
Yeah.
You also see a small, at least by comparison to the amount of bottles on the walls, a small amount of, there's grapes in decent quantities in a basket on the countertop. There are some cheeses of different kinds scattered across the countertop. It appears that this is very much the epitome of what you might expect from a place that would do a wine tasting or something of the like, where there are plenty of fine wine, things to go along with it. and not a whole lot else. Like some other stores you've walked into, especially Gothak's store back in Falstock, you've seen a whole spread of different items, a lot of things that adventurers would use. This is not that store, and it sort of fits with the image you've had of Harnstead to this point. You also see, as you walk in, a familiar gentleman in armor with a red lion.
Derek!
Cavis. Oh.
Yeah. We're Thorogood. Hello!
Chicken.
It is indeed Derek Rothwell, and as you guys enter the store, he appears to be in conversation with a elven-looking gentleman who is behind the counter. Looks to be middle-aged by elf standards, which is a little bit different than human, but still, like, pretty, like, weathered, traveled. Really, really light green eyes, and he seems to be upset, but in a sad way, in the sense of, like, he's answering questions, he's having a quick back and forth with Derek as you guys walk in, but he looks like he's gotten bad news, and you guys can kind of put together pretty quickly what that bad news might be. And as you guys walk in, Derek kind of catches sight as he looks over towards the doorway, and he says, "Ah, you're back!" And he sees the shard, and he goes, "And you're alive!"
Derek.
I see.
Yes.
I see you have completed your rehabilitation then. I heard from the Duchess a little bit earlier. She hadn't heard back from me yet, but I know you guys dropped off the prisoners last night, so things went well.
Yes.
Yes,
yes,
only
they
had to
did.
kill a few of them.
And he kind of sees your guys' apprehension, and he goes, "Well, you know, sometimes there's no other outcome. It's unfortunately a dangerous world out there. We hear from folks all the time that, you know, sometimes it's just as little as theft, and sometimes we have what happened here last night, where it's much more than that."
What did happen?
I saw you, Mike.
I also saw you, Mike.
Yeah. He says, well, found out early this morning, in talking to some of the town guard that discovered his body, that the owner of this establishment was killed in an alley last night. And so I've spent the better part of my morning trying to figure out what exactly happened, if there's any threat in the town right now, and if it has anything to do with any of the other incidents in the area on this side of the continent recently. Now, to be fair, I'm not saying that's you. I know better. But I'm just saying, a lot of nasty business in different towns on this side. Ones you've been to and ones you haven't. And quite frankly, I'm kind of getting sick of it.
Yep.
It's good to see you.
Well, of course, Karash. It's always wonderful to see you. I just wish, you'll have to understand it's been a busy morning, and pleasantries are, well, it would be rude not to have them, but you'll have to understand. My mind is elsewhere. I apologize.
So we actually spoke to the Duchess, and she kind of updated us on some information. I'm just kind of curious, what would anyone have to gain from killing this man?
Well, to be honest with you, that's what's troubling me the most about it. The kill was done cleanly. One stab wound. Right through the heart, essentially. A vital organ. Needs your heart to live, after all. Somebody who did this was thorough. Knew what they were doing. But as far as motive, I'm not entirely sure yet. Everything I've understood tells me he didn't have very much in the way of enemies. He was a businessman. I mean, you never know, but nobody had a grudge around him as far as I could tell. Between the town guard and a handful of crusaders I have here looking around for information, we haven't been able to find much in the way of that. He still had a coin purse on his body when he was killed. At least 100 gold in it, maybe more. I haven't had a chance to talk to the crusader who took that off of his body yet, but it was not a robbery. But without some kind of personal vendetta and without it being a robbery, I'm not entirely sure what it was that put him in the line of fire.
No, I can't make heads or tails of that either. I mean, and to leave him in the alley like that, he's expecting him to be seen. He didn't try and hide, whoever it was, didn't try to hide this.
Especially in this city, because you've probably heard by now, there's a light curfew on it to the point where people aren't supposed to be out and about. And the other thing that troubles me about is I'm not sure why the victim was out and about. He knows better, if more than anybody. He's lived in this city for quite some time. He understands the importance of not being outside without a reason, and yet, near as we can tell, he didn't have a reason to be in that alley. So it's perplexing. I mean, we've only had a few hours at our disposal yet, and I expect we'll find more information as we keep digging, but at this moment, I'm a little perplexed by the whole thing.
Where does he? So he's found in an alley. How far away is his home from the? How far did he travel? If that question makes any sense.
Yeah, he says, well, he had a home on the north side of town, so it was probably about a 10, 15-minute walk for him, and that alley was in between the two, but the shop had been closed for hours, and he didn't really go to the shop itself on a daily basis. It's possible he was going between them, but for the time of night, I can't really think of a reason why that would have been connected. But it does line up. I mean, it's in between the two locations. I just can't figure out why he would have been there.
Is the alley closer to the shop or his home?
Closer to his home.
Perhaps we should investigate his home. Perhaps there's some
A
information, a note, anything that might connect some dots.
I had a couple of Crusaders sweep the place earlier. Sorry, Mike. And there was no signs of foul play within the house. There was no signs of him doing anything that was out of the ordinary as far as his routine, at least best as we can understand it. Like, there wasn't any bags packed for some kind of journey or possessions that were out of place. The bed had been used recently. He had been living in the place. Like, nothing really stood out there as far as something out of the ordinary either.
There was one soldier who got away from us and the farmhouse. Is it possible this is a blade of indemnity?
Well, it's the first time hearing about that. I wonder. I don't believe so. I don't think he had any connections like that, but I suppose, I mean, the Blades have connections, and as much as some of their group are low-level thugs, it's not out of the question for him to have gotten touched by them for some reason.
I kind of interrupt abruptly and say, but you just said that there was a coin purse on him and that they didn't take it. I mean, from what I understand, the Blades seem to take what they can. I imagine that would have been at least something that they would have done before leaving the body. No?
Maybe I've misunderstood. I believe Karash's question was like, was the guy who died a Blade, right?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
asking if the guy who died was the escaping. Way to not incriminate yourself there, Greg.
Yeah, I know.
I
which is
misunderstood
why
what you were
I'm going to let you
saying. I
walk
thought
that back, because otherwise.
I thought you asked if the missing blade came back and killed
That's
this guy.
That's
No,
how I
I was-
read it
I
too.
actually thought
No.
that too.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
I'm curious if the half elf.
Somehow I'm the only one who got it right, but it worked.
That escaped. Yeah, it's a coincidence, and even Crash isn't that dumb.
So yeah, the answer I said was essentially along those lines of Derek doesn't believe that he was connected to the Blades, but he doesn't rule out the possibility, if only because their network is, I don't want to say ever present, but like they have a presence on almost every area on the side of the continent, so it could be, but there's no sign of any Blades activity with the owner as far as he could tell.
They like to use basements. Is there a basement here or at his home?
There is one here. It's where a lot of the wine that's not currently for sale, or the stuff that's fermenting or not yet ready for public consumption is kept. We swept it earlier and didn't see anything out of the ordinary down there, but you're welcome to take a look if you'd like.
They also tend to be very interested in areas that are transporting goods. So barrels, crates, we've come across that in the past. So I guess there is a chance.
Yes, that bit of business at the Sanguine Stronghold. We looked inside the stock just to make sure he wasn't up to anything out of the ordinary there either, and it seems like everything inside the containers was what you would expect. No hidden machinery parts like last time. As far as we can tell, the business was legit and unconnected to his death.
Odd.
I mean, I'm still putting the pieces together myself, and who knows, maybe we won't even find enough to figure out what happened here, but we're working on it, and the best I can tell you is this is the kind of death that happens when someone's sending a message. I don't know what that message is yet, or who was sending it, unfortunately, but we'll do our best to work here and see if we can uncover anything else.
One more question I have. You said that it was a clean kill. Was the wound strange in any way? Some kind of unique blade, possibly. I don't know.
No, it seemed to be a regular sword as far as we could tell. It was inserted and extracted pretty cleanly to the point where I would say that the likely culprit had experience in this type of manner. Certainly not a crime of passion because of the one wound in and out. It was not multiple stab wounds in an alley. There was no signs of a struggle. So I am not entirely sure why someone with this skill would leave a body so prominently placed in the city, but I consider it something of a red flag.
No, sounds like a message. Just who knows what the hell that message could be.
It's a bit troubling, but last time it was unusual for the city, and he kind of looks over in the Shard's direction. He says, but, we checked it out, and pretty quickly you could discover that everything was above ground, and that they had agreed to this, and we had witnesses to it. Here we have no witnesses. We have someone who was fairly prominent in the city, but not well known to the public. And now we have a dead body and no real explanation as to why.
I will investigate the cellar.
By all means, Crash. And he kind of gestures behind the counter. And he just kind of mentions to the gentleman behind it. He says, I know these people. If you don't mind, they're going to have a look as well. And the man acquiesces. So there is a staircase that leads down into a lit-up area in the basement. So Crash is going that way. What's everybody else doing?
Shall we, Crash?
I already am.
I'm gonna just look around the first floor to see if there's I don't know, any weird, anything strange. I don't know.
Okay, Letta?
Yeah, I think I'll do the same. Maybe look behind the counter, see if there's anything.
Okay, so an investigation check from everyone. 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs.
I will also roll an investigation check.
I'm investigating it vicariously.
9.
Uh-oh.
Goose egg.
18.
17.
Okay.
I literally got a 0.
Well, the good news is one of you rolled well on each pairing, so that's nice because the other person didn't find jack.
I get lost inside an area that's well lit.
Crash, you head downstairs. There is a lot of wine down here. And wine is good. There's nothing wrong with wine. It's not what you prefer, but you're like, yeah, this store's a lot of wine. That's pretty cool. Lena, looking behind the counter, you see basically the alternate angle on what you could kind of see coming in the room. There is a series of small bags behind the counter that you presume are for money and the like. They kind of jingle when you shake them. There is a dagger kept behind the counter. Looks like it hasn't been used recently, but it's there. Mm-hmm. And beyond that, everything kind of checks out. You get an up-close look at all those bottles. In fact, they're higher than you can even reach. And there's a step stool behind the counter that you can use to get up to the tippy top of these shelves of sorts that line the top wall there. Grail, the upstairs sort of seems to fit with what Derek was talking about. It's a nice place, well kept, no dust on the shelves anywhere. Like, you can tell it's a place it's a business that takes pride in its appearance. And also in the fact that it's selling relatively high-line goods, which, means it's probably pretty profitable. Everything seems to check out. And you're actually pretty thorough in looking around in the sense that, it looks like a legitimate business. There's nothing that seems out of place to your understanding.
Is there an office with records? I know in the past we've noticed certain names on records.
You could go check the office if you'd like.
I think I will do that.
Okay. Shard, in the basement, you, as you're looking around, and Karash seems to be distracted by the sheer presence of the room, you see there is, how do I describe this? All of these barrels that you kind of presume include wine and kind of check out briefly. You can pull the spigot out of one of them and a bit of liquid comes out. You're like, okay, seems legit. Everything seems to check out as well. From the description you got from the upstairs area, even though you're pretty thorough about it, you feel like you might find something else that would be off-kilter. This place has a whole bunch of wine in it and some tools for working with wine, some spare corks. But there's nothing else here that stands out.
Crash, correct me if I'm wrong, but did not Isaac say he was your instructor?
Yes.
Do you think that wise?
He is teaching me to read and write.
You don't know how to read and write, Crash. That's a shame.
Well, I'm learning. It's slow. But yes.
Is he teaching you Iocaric?
Huh? I don't know what that is.
Crash, you have much to learn about your own kind. Iocaric is the written script of the dragons.
We don't write much. We mostly fish and garden.
I see. Well, I've found nothing down here. If you would prefer, you can take some wine for yourself, but either way, I think we should go back upstairs.
This is not mine. I would not take what does not belong to me.
And who does it belong to? A dead man?
I think it is businesses. I think they have rules about who gets things when people die here.
As you like, Karash, but I did not see any of those rules written, which I would imagine would impress upon the need for reading.
I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to turn around and walk upstairs a little bit
Oh
off the
my
funnel.
God.
Okay.
One single dragon tear.
Yeah.
Down his dragon face.
I'm like, you got to break balls, man.
It's so funny.
Grail, make an investigation check for the office.
Okay. Sorry, I was unprepared. Just a second.
Well, I didn't want to
Stupid.
interrupt.
I know. I'm usually pretty good with investigation. I say as I probably get like a 1. Yeah, an 8.
Kind of giving a once-over in the office desk. There is a file cabinet in it. You kind of thumb through some of the documents in it. None of the names stick out. You're not seeing any of the couple of familiar ones that you'd seen in the slave trading over by Cigar Cove. It appears to be legitimate business there, too. All the documents you look at the very least, talk about transactions involving primarily wine, but other foods and drinks, and not anything that would be abnormal for this particular store.
Is there like a drawer, like a main drawer that I can kind of like look to check for like traps or any kind of like, not traps, but like trapdoors or whatever?
There's a mouse trap underneath the chair.
Oh, good.
Latches onto your toe.
Good.
There's a main desk drawer, if you want to pull that open,
Yes, I do.
or check it for traps.
Yes, I do.
All right, make a perception check.
Okay. Sorry, this is like totally a waste of time, but you never know. 11?
You kind of give it a quick once-over, kind of lean underneath the desk and look on the underside. Doesn't appear to be trapped in any way. But
Mm.
But
are you going to open it or no?
Yes.
Okay. It's trapped. Poison gas.
rocks fall, you die.
Yeah.
No!
You slide it open. Inside is a couple of letters that you can kind of quickly scan. They do appear to be to somebody that he knows in Timberbrook. The last name doesn't match what you were given for him, but some kind of acquaintance or business partner or something, you're not sure. They're not business related, they're more personal, but they don't seem to be family, at least at first check. There is a gold pocket watch, the inside of which doesn't have any like engravings or pictures on it, but seems relatively nice. And beyond that, there's a handful of like unused sheets of paper and some writing implements, but nothing else catches your eye.
I'm gonna take those letters.
Okay.
Just gonna pocket that shit.
Sure.
It's the only thing I can think of as far as a connection to Holden, is Timberbrook's really close to our ranch, so yeah.
Okay.
And the name doesn't seem familiar to me at all.
Nope.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna take them. I'm gonna take all of them.
Okay. Anything else from you guys? What's you up to? Shard and Karash head back to the main room. Lena, you're still out there. Lots of wine bottles. You're like, wow.
Yeah, I'm like, this is way too much.
I am confused. People on the mainland do not normally murder people just for fun, right?
I think you'd be surprised.
People that are not living embodiments of shards of evil swords do not kill for fun generally. Am I wrong? Like if this man had no known enemies, was not hated, and was not stolen from, at least there was nothing on him that we know was stolen, then he must have been either involved in something or very, very unlucky.
It would seem that way.
Yes, I see your point, Karash. There would appear to be no reason to kill this man.
That we know of.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
It's odd.
It is strange. I don't know. I'm just as confused as you are, Karash.
And to leave his body, I don't understand.
Yes. What type of sadist would do that?
Say what?
A creature that enjoys invoking pain in others.
Oh, that is a thing.
Yes, Karash, it is.
How does Grail respond to hearing what kind of sadist would do this?
I'm just gonna say, yeah, that's fun. I'm just gonna say, well, Derek said that there's some kind of message being relayed here. And now, as for what that message is, I don't know, but I don't know, we might, maybe rule out sadist. Maybe it's just some person who
If
wanted
it was
to kill him. I don't know.
a person who wished to cause pain, they would not have simply stabbed him in the heart. There are many, many ways to cause pain.
Also,
Many, many, many ways to cause pain.
That is an excellent point, Karash.
true.
Should we inspect his home?
Yes. And while we're at it, we can discuss theories on the way there.
Good. I can't wait for this.
So excited.
Let's
Okay.
discuss what kind of a douchebag would kill this person.
Do
So,
we
I
know
guess-
where his home is, or do we need to ask Rothwell?
You could check with Rothwell. He could give you a pretty quick rundown on it. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So, yeah,
Let's
I guess-
do that.
Yeah, we
We
can
got-
just let them know that we didn't find anything.
Time's a wasting.
Okay. He says, well, if you need anything else from me, let me know. And I'll try to piece this together best I can.
All right.
Thank you.
Macho handshake before we leave.
He returns your handshake. Okay. Tessie and Isaac. You guys saw the same town of still, again, positivity, but a little out of sorts this morning, at least compared to your experience with it yesterday. The well-read is not far. Even on foot, you can probably walk there within 10 minutes tops.
So on the way, I am just kind of walking, looking around, sort of aloof, looking at stuff, but also not really looking at anything. I have kind of like my finger just like sliding on my on the black gun in my holster, just kind of trailing my finger along it, and I say, was it too obvious that I was trying to get us some alone time?
And Tessian, who's been kind of looking around, is like, what now?
I just thought it could do us some good to have a quick chat, Tessian.
And Tessian's like, okay.
From where I sit, you and I are going in circles. It's a cycle. We fight, and we don't see eye to eye at all. It blows up in every situation, and then afterwards we say how much we really like each other, and if we can just get to that over the hump, we'll be fine. And all we're doing is sticking a Band-Aid on a wound. We're not making any progress. I would like to try to amend that, if possible.
And Tessian's like, well, feel like you and I are in agreement about a great many things, actually. It's what I wanted to discuss later, but it's something I think we should discuss with the group. Like I said, I've had some time to think about things. And, well, I don't think now is the best time. I'd like to discuss it with everyone.
I agree. I think policy, things, how we conduct our business, I think is important, obviously, for the group, but I don't know you very well, Tessian. I don't think the man that electrocuted a prisoner was you. That didn't strike me as a thing that you have done in our limited time together. And I'm concerned. And I realized I don't know a lot about you. I don't know if you would agree with that. Is that a thing, Tessian Black of Black Harbor? Is that how he conducts business, or was that out of character for you?
Tessian sort of thinks for a moment. He's like, well, I mean, to be fair, I intended on killing those men when we arrived. I didn't think much of it to kill them later, I suppose. I don't know what that says about my character from your standpoint, but the men were thieves, and I don't know if you see it this way, but thieves kill people, whether they take their lives or not. I mean, they tend to bleed people dry of their money, and then they don't have food, and it's a whole thing. But he just kind of shrugs.
I'm not here necessarily now to discuss philosophy with you and how we go about things. I realize, for better or for worse, I don't know a lot about you. What drives you to act in one way or another, and it doesn't matter if you and I like each other at the end of the day. It matters that we are helping Lena achieve her goals. It matters that we're helping our group achieve their goals. And that's all I care about. So I need you at your best. If you know a great deal about me, and I've never really asked a whole lot about you, I'll be honest. I wanted to give us an opportunity to get into your head.
And Tessian's like, well, I'm glad to hear you say all that. Although I question some of your past choices, but if you have questions for me about myself, sure. I mean, I guess we're headed to the library. Is there anything in particular you'd like to know?
I don't even know where to start, Tessian. What are your motivations? You've played your cards pretty close to the chest, and that says a lot coming from someone who likes to think that that's how they operate. Why are you here? You don't divulge, you don't really tell us, and something is driving you. And you're important to this group. You may know that. I don't take you as one who lacks confidence, but we need you at your best. Lena needs you at your best.
And Tessian's like, well, I'm here for Lena. That's what I am here to do. I'm here to make sure that she accomplishes this goal and to help build a relationship between her people and mine.
If this is how we want to play it, Tessian, that's fine. I'm not going to rip it out of you, and I don't want this to feel like I'm pulling teeth. So if you do not wish to divulge the extent of your motivations, I don't think you're lying.
And Tessian kind of stops, and he's like, Isaac, what do you think I'm here for? Or do you think I have some sort of ulterior motive? I have other things in my life that I have to see to, but they're not your business.
But that's exactly why I'm talking to you. That's why I'm having this conversation. I think you're a complicated man, and helping Lena is a simple answer. I'm simply trying to get past the surface. That's all.
He's like, it's not simple, Isaac. What we're doing here with Lena is not simple. And there are things I do have to do outside of this, but not even Lena knows the full extent of it. I have my own life, as you have yours, and it doesn't matter right now. We need to help Lena get where she needs to go.
But I think it does matter, Tessian, and that's why I wanted to have a talk with you, and I wanted to give you an opportunity away from everyone else. I don't know if you trust me now, but the fact remains you know everything about my history, you have the leverage. I'm just giving you an opportunity to let me know the same about you. That's all. I think it does matter. I think it more than matters. I think it's imperative that I understand where you're coming from.
And Tessian's like, well, Isaac, no offense, but I'm not going to tell you. I've got people I care about. That's what you need to know. And I've got responsibilities to them, my family and others. And I can't go telling someone who might very well put them in danger.
Why would I put them in danger? We're in this together. I'm not going to go rogue and take out your family members. Surely you know this by now.
And Tessian's like, well, you may not mean to, but you don't seem to show a great deal of care when it comes to tying up loose ends regarding your actions. No offense taken. It's just you've left a lot of loose ends recently, and I can't let the people I care about be any of them.
If you don't wish to divulge your secrets, that's your call.
And Tessian just sort of starts walking away, and he's just like, they're not secrets, Isaac. They're just not for you.
To me, that's a secret, Tessian, but they're yours.
He's just walking. He's going to the
I'm
library.
walking with you, so you gotta walk away.
Power walk.
He's trying to walk.
Do you allow him to walk away, or do you match his gait?
I grab him, but no. I walk behind him. If he's walking fast, I'm not gonna start jogging. I'm just gonna say, they're your secrets, and you can do with them as you wish. But I hope you reconsider for the good of the group. It would help all of us to know a little bit more about you.
And Tessian kind of thinks, he's like, is there anything in particular you'd like other than just asking for my secrets?
I don't know, Tessian. I've asked motivations. I didn't realize they were one and the same.
He's like, I don't understand this question of motivations, Isaac. I'm here to help Lena.
I began this talk by mentioning circles, and here we are, going round and round, Tessian and Isaac, with no real answers. I suppose I just must be content with surface level relationship, but I think it's going to be frank with you, it's going to take more than that to complete your goals that are secret, Lena's goals. We all need to learn more about each other. Or we might as well call it off.
Tessie just kind of raises an eyebrow and looks like, he's like, what do you know about my family, Isaac?
Nothing, Tessian. Absolutely nothing.
And it's like, it's not exactly private knowledge. My family has an entire city. I'm a prince. I seem to think you're mistaking ignorance for some sort of secrecy.
Let me rephrase. I know what I learned growing up. You know a lot about me, and you're very open with sharing it with others, but you know where I grew up. You know my education. I'm asking, what is it about your family that is beyond the books that I read or tales that my brother told me? What makes Tessian Black tick?
And he's like, I'm not even sure how to begin that, Isaac. It's a life story. And by my wild guess, we've got, maybe 30, 40 minutes to look around this library?
If you wanted to share with me, I would forego looking for Tales of the Gunslinger Volume 11.
And Tessian's like, actually, I was looking to see if we could learn more about this shard.
I like where your head's at.
And Tessian's like, well, he'd mentioned something about a volcano, had he not?
I know what you're doing, Tessian, and you know what? I'm fine with it. I agree. Let's look into the shard. But I hope you know, and you might not, but I'm smarter than you think I am, and I can tell when you're evading a question, and you can treat me like I'm obnoxious or being silly. But there will come a time, I hope, where we can actually be real with one another.
Tessin is just like, Isaac, when you have an actual question, other than just whatever this is, I'll answer them.
I will hold you to that then.